Goodness. The dog is not happy. But here's an update of a classic car that I bought, sight unseen. One of my dream cars. This is a 1970 Wagoneer. It's not a Grand Wagoneer, it's a Wagoneer. It's part of the first gen, which I think is 63 to 70. It's got a Buick 350 cubic inch motor, which was only 69 to 70. It's a pretty cool little thing. But I just wanted some updates. I drive it as much as I can. It's not a daily driver. I take the dog to the park, I get ice cream, I just cruise it at nights when I want to. Things I've gone through that I expected was the brakes. Brakes are terrible. This is a 4,500 some pound car with disc brakes all around. Or I'm sorry, not disc. Drum brakes all around. They were actually rebuilt. I think whoever owned this before me actually cared about it. I don't think they just dumped it, despite the fact that this is a single layer. It looks good because it rains, but it's a single layer Crayola green. Disc brakes are actually rebuilt, or drums, sorry. But they still sucked. So what I did was I actually got new lines. The lines were original, much better with the lines. Then I got a new master cylinder, and at least around town, it's been so much better. It's not, I drove it some on I-10 here in Houston. It's terrifying for two reasons. It's very boaty, and it's not because of the shocks, because if I go over a bump, it's not rebounding. It's just the suspension, how it is. Getting the brakes fixed, it's great around town, but it's terrible out on the highway, and how they drive here in Texas is you can go in 70, and then everybody just stops all of a sudden. There's plywood being thrown on the road, there's accidents everywhere. So I actually got new leaf springs all around. They're not in yet, they're going in this weekend, which is why I wanted to make this for you. This is stock, first gen. Nobody makes new leaf springs for this. I might have been able to go to a shop and they would have been able to do it, but I feel like I'm on a time crunch because next year, me and my ex-girlfriend are going on a honeymoon, and it's from Houston to North Carolina to Delaware for the wedding, and then for the honeymoon it's to Maine, and it'll go back to Delaware, back to North Carolina, back to Texas, and we're gonna drive this thing the whole way. And so I hate how boaty it is. I feel like in a dangerous situation. I know that Texas Louisiana border, I-10 there, is just, they're working on it, and it's so narrow, it's so bumpy. I used to drive it in a Dodge Dually, and it was terrifying. So it's getting new leaf springs all around, new shocks all around. But I wanted to show you to you because the new leaf springs are 4-inch lift. This thing kind of looks good in the pictures, but it's actually quite low in real life. I've had a few people ask me, is this a station wagon? And in some ways it is, and in a lot of ways it isn't. So it's going to be a 4-inch lift, which is big. I don't know that I wanted it so high, but like I said, nobody makes leaf springs for this. So I actually had to go to BJ's Off-Road, pay a good penny, and they have a 4-inch lift for this. And I've spent hours. I'm a pretty good Googler, and so if you find it, kudos to you. But couldn't find anybody, and I wasn't willing to get some leafs and repack the current leaf springs, because I have an '88 AMC Eagle, and the eye of the leaf actually rusted through, and the only thing holding it in was the floorboard. So if I ever hit a big enough bump, it would have came out. It was not attached to the bolt. It would have came out, and who knows what would have happened. So it's got new leaf springs all around. Brakes are not good for, if you're from the Northeast, like 95 traffic, where, you know, you're going fast and all of a sudden everybody stops. Then you're going fast and everybody stops. Then you're going, Texas, they're a little leisurely, but it's higher speeds here, so you need good brakes anyway. So I did purchase a disc brake conversion and some modification that will fit with these 15-inch original wheels. And so I'll be doing that as well. Just make this a driver. It's not a daily driver right now. It will be. As far as issues with owning a classic car, I cleaned the grounds and everything's working. Tail lights are working. The reverse lights aren't, but Texas for registration, they don't care. So I don't care. But I cleaned grounds. The dashboard backlight is working. The wipers are working. The blower motor's working. It's only got heat, but it's good heat. So you definitely need a defroster. What else is working? Dome lights working, but my ex-girlfriend broke that. She's now my fiance, so that's fun. Radio's working, but it's only FM, or AM, so it doesn't do anything. But as far as owning it, the only things I've done since the first video I worked on the brakes, got the brakes working, is this time around, we went and got milkshakes and it was overheating. So we took the radiator out, we shoved a hose in it. It wasn't a stoppage. It wasn't leaking. And we ran it through the heater core. Everything was fine. The water was boiling, and you could hear the car getting hot. You could feel it. It was performing differently. Found that the radiator cap was cracked. Replaced that. The thermostat, I put it in boiling water. Wasn't working that well. Replaced that. The weird thing is I don't know why that's swelling. It's swelling a lot. Looks like some weird larva. I'll have to replace that. I replaced the water pump. Didn't need to. It worked great. But like I said, we're going on a 4,000-mile road trip, so that's going to be changed. So I never really had an overheating problem except when things broke. But I've been in traffic. It was good. The only other issue is this is a Buick 350. So similar but not similar. You can see the strippers up front. And it was so much clatter in the rockers. And the roller rocker only gets oiled at one point and it goes through the rest. It doesn't come up through each stud or anything like that. So there was some sort of clog. I found that the rockers weren't even that tight. And so I tightened them. I cleaned it as best I could. I've got oil again, but they're damaged. There's wear on the push rods onto the rockers. So they're damaged. But I tightened everything down and it's drivable. So before the 4,000-mile road trip, I'll most likely be getting new heads just because it's fun and I don't feel like building heads, so I'm going to get them pre-built and hopefully get a 4-barrel on this because it has, like, I think 230 horse and 330 torque, and so it's drivable, but it's lacking a little bit. But as far as like anything crazy, I just have a basic tool set. I don't have power tools. I don't have air tools. I've just been working on the brakes, which is normal maintenance. You know, the heads, that's a little bit more, but I'm doing it with the normal wrench set, nothing crazy, just some sockets. But I haven't done anything crazy. Transmission's great. It's even got a transmission cooler, which is neat, which is why if this radiator goes, it's going to be fun trying to find another one, because I'm in an apartment garage, so I don't have a welder, I don't have a fab shop, I try not to make a mess in there, even though it's quite messy. But I have been spending a lot of time on it. I've been repolishing the stainless, and it really starting to pop, but it is labor intensive. But yeah, there we go. That's what it's like. If I needed to, I probably could daily drive this. There hasn't been anything on this that hasn't been just basic maintenance. And being this old, you know, it's probably been neglected for some time. The wipers work, which is cool. The oil temperature, or the oil pressure works. The coolant temperature works, all from just cleaning grounds. But I do have some fun stuff coming. I bought a digital gauge for the Eagle. It never went in it. It's a full dash. That'll be going in it. But I love the original dash gauge cluster on this. So that won't be changed. It'll actually be getting thrown in the glove box. But that's what it's like to own an original car. I got stuck in a rainstorm. I was trying to take dog to the park. So it probably looks better because it's wet. It does leak. I don't like taking it in the rain because all the doors leak. But that's what it's like. I really would advise people to dive in if you really like cars. I am not a mechanic, and it's running good. And I've had about 3 now, and I've never done anything crazy to them. You just change the oil when you should. Do your maintenance that nobody even does on newer cars. You know, at some point you need to flush your fluids. You need to do the timing chain. You need to, you know, just stuff people aren't doing. You need to check the master cylinder. But someday this is going to get whole new wiring, because it's a nest under there. It's been patches on patches on patches. It's a mess in here right now just because I'm working on it. The pin for the roller window is lost, so I've got a new one coming in the mail. But it's just a nest under here, and I'd love to do some new wiring, but that's not going to happen before I get married. Well, we're just going to drive it. But here she is. I'll do a quick walk around. And I wanted to show you because the next time you see it, hopefully this weekend, it'll have a 4-inch lift. And the shocks aren't here because they're on back order, but should look pretty gnarly. Like I said, some few people have thought this was just a station wagon. Every old car I've owned, an older lady has asked me if it's a Pinto. My AMC Eagle asked if it's a Pinto. This, they asked if it's a Pinto. The Corvair, actually nobody asked if it's a Pinto, but, you know, nobody knows what that is anyway. But everything works. The window in the back works. It's really cool. It's really fun. Most Wagoneer people will tell you this. The gas filler neck is got some crazy hoops in it, and it takes forever to fill up because you can't put it on full pressure. because the vapor will come back and shut the pump off. And she drives good. Lights work, wipers work, radio works.
Pain-free studio.
Wipers. And you're not going to be able to see it, but the backlit dash at night, it's pretty cool. It's got a soft, very soft glow to it. But I think it doesn't matter if the condition of the car. I think if certain things are running, if everything's working great, people enjoy it more. That vent is not working. I'll have to get that because it'll allow new air in. With the windows up, which is going to be huge if it ends up raining or something like that on our trip. And then I'm polishing the chrome. So if the stuff that's supposed to look nice looks nice and the other stuff looks okay, it just puts the car above the rest. But yeah, even turn signals work. I had a bear of putting a turn signal, I forget what it's called, collar or something like that in, because only the left rear light was working and this one wasn't. And I figured it had to be in here, and I actually learned that that's a pretty common fix, but I haven't spent a lot of money on it. The 4-inch lift was a bit much, but that's more of a safety thing. I probably can drive. I'm on the, and you can see just, I don't know if you can see on camera, but it's very wavy. And it just drives slower. It just drives slower. It feels like I'm pushing it and I'm at 45. So it's fun, but it's gonna be a long road trip because we aren't going on the freeways. I think it's too dangerous. I don't think it's fast enough. It's not geared for it. And I think people drive like maniacs nowadays. But that's what it's like to own a classic car. You guys are gonna see some big changes coming and it's gonna be a lot of fun. All right, see ya.